This is The Journey Podcast Edition. If what you're building didn't come with a playbook, you're in the right place.
Hey there, welcome back to The Journey Podcast Edition. I am glad you're here. Every month I answer a question from the community in our Ask Me Anything series. It's kind of like Dear Abby, but for builders building something from scratch while juggling, the 14 open browser tabs and a calendar that looks like a big burning wreck. Today's AMA comes from Elena, who lives in Thessaloniki, Greece, and the topic, it's kind of a juicy one. I like it. She asks, should you build one amazing product or a few decent ones when you're just starting out? That's the thrust of it. The question comes up in so many forms, especially in those early days when you're really excited, you're a little bit nervous, you're trying to make the right first move, and you feel like you've hit on something. Elena's example, it brings it to life just beautifully. Let me read a piece of her message. I'm torn between launching a single mythology-themed tour here in Greece that's incredible, or offering a range of decent ones. I want to do this outside of Athens. It's too crowded in the city. My heart wants to make the best tour that I can, but what if it fails? How do you know when less but better really is the right move? And can I start a tour business while continuing my part-time job? Sometimes it feels like too much. There's a lot of heart in it, and, I'm there for it. And it's a situation I think a lot of us can relate to, right? Whether you're building tours in Greece or building a tool, a course, a piece of software, a podcast, even if you're, taking over a laundromat and figuring out what you're going to do with it, we can all kind of relate to that. So let's unpack it piece by piece. Your startup energy and kind of the feeling of being overwhelmed that brings, like your mental and physical energy to take on something like this. Let's tackle that feeling that Elena mentions. It feels like too much sometimes. Yeah. I mean, that's the default setting when you're trying to build something that just doesn't exist yet, right? Every single one of my ventures has started with that same wave of being overwhelmed. This one included, this podcast and my consulting business, 6 Catalysts. There's uncertainty, there's a sense of being behind, and then there's a sneaky little voice that says, are you sure you can pull this off? And it pops up at the worst time, always. Here's the thing, though. Feeling overwhelmed doesn't mean that you're doing it wrong. It usually means you're pushing into new territory, and your brain's just kind of catching up. The key isn't to eliminate that feeling of being overwhelmed. It's to kind of compartmentalize it and process it and deal with it. Think through it step by step in small pieces. When you're compartmentalizing it, here's kind of what works for me. Block off chunks of time, literally. Go into your calendar, set aside a few hours a week for focused work on your project or day, if you're lucky. Then give each chunk a purpose. Design the outline for the tour. Research similar offerings. Talk to 3 tourists. You don't need a master plan. You just need to know the next few steps. Then stick to those time blocks. Protect them like they're meetings with someone really important, because they kind of are. They're meetings with your future. Should you go all in? That's another question that Elena asks. And, she says, or she asks if it's okay to work part-time while building the business. And the answer is yeah, absolutely, yes. There's this myth out there, especially with startup culture and hustle culture, that you have to go all in to succeed. But for a lot of people, that's not financially or emotionally sustainable. The worry about paying the bills and whatnot. For some people, that's such a distraction that it actually makes it less likely that you're going to succeed because your focus is sapped. So you don't have to quit your job, especially if it's a part-time job. You can kind of keep going and use that tactic of aggressively portioning out your time and work on your idea when you're not working at your job that pays the bills. It's more common than you might think. So working part-time while you test and validate an idea, it's not playing it safe, it's playing it smart. That gives you the stability that you need to experiment. It gives you breathing room to make mistakes without everything kind of riding on the outcome, right? And it also gets you a little bit of cash to spend on your experimentation when it makes sense to do so. In fact, more and more people these days are intentionally building what's been referred to as a portfolio career, where your income comes from multiple sources, not just one full-time job. And that's, in the way that labor markets and the economy is kind of functioning or convulsing or whatever you want to call it these days, it's not stupid to spread things around. Like when you're making investment decisions, do you put all of your eggs in one basket in one stock, or do you diversify and spread around the risk as well as kind of the sources of income? Well, I mean, you diversify if you're smart and you're actually building wealth. That's kind of how it works. So why do we think about our careers as an all eggs in one basket sort of scenario? I think increasingly it's less smart to approach work and what you do for a living to generate income kind of that way. You need a bunch of different things. I mean, just my opinion, but the point of that really is that staying at your part-time job while you work on this, it's not a sign of indecision. It's a hedge against instability. And it's just, to me, it's just smart design. So, I don't think that you need to go all in on your new idea before you're ready. Now, you used in your question a phrase that I absolutely love, and I'm going to start talking about this more, and full credit to you for kind of throwing it out there. The minimum lovable product. I really dig that. So getting into the core of that part of the question, do you want to build one great product or several okay ones? Well, there are a ton of companies out there who have built several okay ones because their goal is to generate revenue and get market share and, put people through the door. And in travel and tourism, you can get away with building an okay product, especially if you're selling it kind of one-to-one, like on the street in person, because that customer that you sold that tour or trip to or whatever is probably never going to be a repeat customer anyway. So why put in the effort? That's like the attitude that some companies have. I don't think that's the right attitude, and I don't think you should do that. So focus on one product, but you don't need to try and build that one great thing at first, all at once. So really my answer is kind of neither, at least not at first. Instead of building one incredible tour or a range of okay ones, focus on building the minimum lovable product that you kind of threw out there. It's not the smallest thing that you can build. It's the smallest thing that people can fall in love with. And that's important, I think. So it's not about checking the viability box, really. It's about creating something memorable that you can take to market, something that's unique and share-worthy. If you can do that, you will turn your tour takers into ambassadors for you, brand ambassadors, product ambassadors, ambassadors to your experience. And that will make your marketing easier and less costly over time. So I think especially in this case, like having a great product is pretty important for the pathway that you want to go down. It still doesn't have to be perfect, but it should be emotionally resonant. To get there, you need to validate the idea before you double down on it, though. Like that's really, really critical. Like if you build something that would make you incredibly happy and proud, that doesn't automatically mean that it will make your customers happy. So you need to test this first. Here's kind of the scrappy validation plan that might work for you. And this could apply to a lot of service-based businesses too that are doing things kind of similarly from a structural standpoint. What I'd suggest, Elena, is sketch out your dream tour. What's it include? What's the storyline? What's the emotional arc for the customer? And the story part of that is pretty important. I personally believe that that tourist experiences, the good ones are really built on storytelling. Because you think about what people are doing when they're on vacation. The folks who travel around and go to very culturally rich places like Greece and Macedonia, they're looking to immerse themselves in a story. Some are looking to learn, facts. Some are looking to just kind of be there and feel what the story is. So if you build around that idea, you're likely to create something that's more engaging and sticky. So you sketch it all out, then do a little bit of recon. Check out what's already out there. So hop on Airbnb, see what tour experiences are already out there that are kind of in the same space that you want. TripAdvisor, Instagram, whatever. Do some research. See what kinds of mythology-themed tours would be competing for the attention of customers. But what you don't want to do, and this exercise isn't about figuring out what to copy from existing tours. Rather, it's about figuring out what's not there. I'm a big believer in doing what others aren't, and this is no different. So what you want to try and do with your research is stake out a claim on the hill that isn't occupied. If you think about a big hill and tents and camps and whatever, people have set up their camp in a particular space. Do you want to walk into that same camp and try and set up your camp on top of it? No, that'd be silly. This is the same. Look for what's missing and then tweak your plan to fit into that strategic space that doesn't have anything in it. That will make your tour stand out. It'll be unique, and it'll be a lot easier for you to market and go in the start. So once you've kind of refined your idea based on this research, this exercise, then what you should do, and this is important, go talk to people, like actual real tourists. You live in Thessaloniki, geez. I feel like I'm not pronouncing that at all. I apologize. In your city, second largest city in Greece, tons of tourists. Go out and talk to some. People who are in Greece right now, in Macedonia, and they're kind of looking to do these things. Share your idea, get some feedback, and then go refine it a little bit more, right? Like that popular square or bistro that's just around the corner from wherever you might be. I'm sure there's some place where tourists hang out that's really close by. Start some low pressure conversations with them. Ask about their travel plans, what they've been doing that they really, really like. I would also ask what felt kind of like a tourist trap, because that's just an icky feeling when you're on vacation and you get kind of sucked into one of those, and you realize partway through that it wasn't a great experience. It just kind of ruins it. So ask people what makes them feel like that, because you want to avoid that. Don't oversell what you're planning on doing either. When you're kind of talking about your idea, because you want honest feedback. And if your excitement and enthusiasm for what you're building kind of bubbles to the surface, and the people you're talking to can tell that you're really, really excited about it, they're not going to want to rain on your parade. They're not going to give you the honest feedback that you might otherwise collect if you were a little bit more neutral in tone. So maybe positioning this as a research project for school or a course or for a friend or something, distance yourself from it a little bit. Maybe that would kind of help get more honest feedback and create some emotional space from you and the idea while you're talking about it. So once those insights from those conversations start rolling in, go back and refine your idea further, right? Kind of sharpen the edges of it. And when you get to a point where it seems really promising, move on to the next step. Design a pilot. So plan on actually doing this for real. Go through the exercise, talk to the vendors that you would want to kind of bring on board, talk to other people that you might need to actually execute on this, and plan it out. Not the whole business, not your entire marketing and advertising operation, but just a single hosted experience that follows your format. Dress the part, put on a lanyard, go down to wherever the tourists are kind of hanging out one day after you're all prepared, and see if you can sell some tickets. Shoot for 5-10 people, whatever feels appropriate, and try and sell them tickets for this pilot tour. Be honest with them, right? Charge them just what it costs you to cover your overhead for that. It should be pretty cheap. And for the people who agree to go on this, make it very clear to them, like, hey, I'm just going to charge you what it costs me. I'm really hoping that you'll give me feedback on what you liked, what you didn't like. And we'll kind of talk about this throughout the tour at places where it's not, going to be interrupting and, kind of like distract from the experience. But make it clear that that the discount is an exchange for feedback to help you refine and build this out, make it better. So while you've got kind of the tour going on, you're playing like the actual part, you're doing the tour guide, you're taking these people out. At the end, make sure you do ask that feedback, or during it, if there are natural breaks where you're traveling from one point of interest to another, and the conversation to talk about it kind of makes sense. Collect that feedback. Ask the people, what did they love? What felt clunky? What did they like? What did they dislike? Would they recommend it to others based on the experience that they've had? And then at some point too, ask them what they would pay, because getting that pricing data is kind of an important part of this too. And like, you'll want to do your own pricing research to see what similar tours offer, but asking the people who are coming on the tour what they would pay, that can be a pretty important data point, because a lot of the time pricing for these tours, especially experiences put on by independent operators like you, the pricing isn't really based on what the guests are willing to pay. It's based on an estimation of what the operator thinks that they will pay, plus markup and everything to cover costs and all that. But very few tour operators that are independent and small ask guests what they will pay. So that can be an important data point for you. And if you need to, you can repeat this process a few times until the experience really feels refined and really feels like it has traction with the guests. Then it's time to really double down. Then it's time to start your marketing, your advertising, and make this a thing that you can fully dive into. And it still doesn't have to be your full-time job at this point. If you get a really well-oiled machine going with this tour, it could still be a source of part-time income. You don't have to take this concept and grow it and expand it until it's your full-time job. You can do other things too. So that's one pathway ahead of you to think about. But if you want to make a business that completely focuses on mythology-themed tours, great, that's cool too. Don't not do that just because I'm saying that that you don't have to. So let's think about launching this. When you're ready to go, it's not really a leap, right? It's a climb. There's this moment that we all chase as builders, that feeling that when someone gets it, when they light up and say, that was amazing, that we've kind of made it. And to some extent, that's true. Like, that's a pretty important milestone when you get those moments of customer delight and it validates all your hard work. You don't reach that moment by guessing, though. You reach it by building slowly, testing as you go, being incremental, and carefully listening to what people have to say. So, like I said, you don't need to go all in on day one, and I don't think you should. You don't need to scale fast. You don't need to build a huge portfolio of offers around your experience right away. If you're methodical about this, test things as you go, and just move forward one step at a time, you can build something that's sustainable for yourself. Don't bite off more than you can chew. With this approach, what you'll find is you will come to a place where your customers absolutely love what you're doing. And if they love it, they're going to tell others. In fact, I think you should include in your marketing efforts some sort of referral loop where they get a bonus or a freebie or something special if they refer other people to your experience, your website or your Airbnb booking page, what have you. Think about what loop you could build in that would turn those happy guests into advocates and ambassadors for you. That'll also help you grow and acquire customers at less cost than like paying for ads, right? When people start asking you when the next tour is or what other tours you offer, that's a sign that you've become a business and that your brand is sticking. So keep an eye out for that. Some final thoughts. I really hope you do this. I hope you build your minimum lovable product. I hope that you tell stories that your guests remember long after the flight home. I hope you make people fall in love with Greece and Macedonia all over again if they've been before, or for the first time if they haven't. I want you to be a memorable part of that experience. And I think you can be. Selfishly, I kind of hope that when my wife and I finally make it to Greece on a vacation, which is on our list, we've never been before, I hope that when we do come to Greece, you're up and running and we can take you to her. I was a Greek and Roman Civ major my first year at university, and I love the lore and mythology of ancient Greece. So I would take your tour in a heartbeat. Thanks for submitting the question, and thanks for listening if you are. I really hope you are. Everybody else, if you enjoyed this episode, there's a companion post where you can dig into kind of more of what Elena's question was and my response to it. Link will be in the show notes. And until next time, build slow, build scrappy. Most importantly, I think Elena has taught us with this question, build with intention and love. We'll see you.
And that's it for this episode of the Journey Podcast Edition. If you're building something from scratch or scaling something messy, make sure to follow, share, or just send this to someone else in the trenches. Until next time, keep climbing.